Hello, you guys, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Bryce. As many of you might have noticed, I did go dark on the YT for a little bit over a week. That was to try to help with the algorithms and with the corner that YT likes to put me in sometimes because I challenge the narrative. And so if you were not aware, I tried to make this before I went dark. I did say to make sure you're subscribed to my backup platform, which is the RUMBLE. I have to be careful about what I say here. And so if you are not on the RUMBLE, which is the backup platform, please make sure that you are subscribed to Esoteric Atlanta over there. Same profile picture, same everything. And last week, while I was dark on YouTube, I did post some videos. Some interesting videos that would have had to have gone on that platform anyway. I'm not going to tag it down below just because of the whole algorithm thing that I'm trying to pull my channel out of, but you guys know where to go. You go to RUMBLE and look up Esoteric Atlanta, same as here. And if you hit the subscribe button there, anytime a video is uploaded, you will be notified. So there is one of the videos that I uploaded last week was having to do with the Son of Sam case. And as many of you guys know, if you've been around the block for a while with me, I got involved with the Son of Sam case because of my late friend, Doug Scott Kramer, whose YouTube channel is Dazed But Not Confused. I believe his YouTube channel is still up. It has not been taken down yet. He had a whole series, Being Raised in a Secret Society, and I was so fascinated with his research into the Son of Sam situation, as well as Charles Manson and the family, that I originally asked him to come on my channel. We became friends. He is an ex-Scientologist, and so he found all these connections between these big events, we'll say, in American history. I'm trying to watch my words, and its connections to Scientology. And of course, after he left the earth, we'll say, I vowed to try to continue his research. And that is what got me in touch with Rocker Mike. You guys know Rocker Mike, who has the Chronicles, Son of Sam Chronicles. He's a huge podcaster, and the whole conspiracy around the Son of Sam and Maury Terry's work and Ultimate Evil. And so we've been working together for over a year now. He's been coming on my platform and presenting new evidence in this case. And one of the things that's interesting about this recent episode that we uploaded over on the R platform last week is that my friend Doug really believed in his evidence, and I believe he was accurate. I thought he had compelling evidence that the Process Church of Final Judgment, which is an offshoot of Scientology, was heavily involved in the three-letter agency, heavily involved in some of the operations that happened after World War II. Again, trying to be very careful about what I say here on this video. We'll say Mary Kay, MK, Mary Kay, they were, the government was using Mary Kay makeup, we'll say MK, to the ultra. You guys get what I'm saying? And for a long time, this conspiracy was around that the government was using Mary Kay makeup. We'll just use that as the code word. And people thought it was just this big conspiracy. Well, then all of a sudden, the three-letter agency did admit that they were doing experimentation with Mary Kay makeup. And a lot of this, very Clockwork Orange with Kathy O, who we have over on the R platform as well, her whistleblowing. And this kind of goes back into Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard and all of the Jack Parsons, all these people that were kind of hovering around this cult, we'll say, that also infiltrated into the United States government after World War II, when a lot of these scientists were brought over to the United States. And so anyway, so through Doug's research, he really felt like that there was a huge connection between Charles Manson and David Berkowitz and Scientology. He felt like these guys were Manchurian candidates. And he felt like there, obviously, I think we all agree, is a bigger picture here. It's not just some weird religious thing going on. There's a bigger, more corrupt picture. And that was kind of Doug's whole thing, right? Which I agree with him. And a lot of the Scientology community really kind of pushed Doug out because they thought that he was like a conspiracy theorist and really didn't give much credence to his research, which is a shame. Because I think whether you agree with something or not, you should always be open to hearing what other people have found. You know, how they've made it, how they've formulated their opinion. Like, show me what you have. But with what I'm getting to with this is that with the new video that we released over on the R platform with Rocker Mike, who I met because of Doug through his work, Jonathan Mitchell, we've had him on the show. He's a very incredible researcher. His book is in the description box over on that video, and the crime journalist Chris. Crime Justice Chris and her blog. We all did a show together because Chris received access to Berkowitz's medical records and military records. And she had written permission from him for us to go through them on a show. We have to have written permission because otherwise this would be considered doxing. What is doxing? Doxing is giving away personal information about a person. So, for example, you could make a video about your opinion of me, that you hate me, you think I'm ugly, whatever. That's your freedom of speech. But if you were to make a video and put out like my personal email or my personal phone number, that would be considered doxing. And that is, in a lot of states, a felony. And so with medical records, obviously you have HIPAA involved. With military records too, there are certain regulations involved about what can be shared with the public regarding someone's personal information. And so Chris got David Berkowitz written permission for us to be able to go through it on this show that we uploaded last week. And there was one crucial part of the military records that really proved Doug's research right, that there is a bigger conspiracy at play here. And so I highly suggest that you go and watch that video. You'll see it when you get over to the R platform. You'll know exactly which video it is, because especially if you're someone that really believes that what we see on the outskirts of things, like what's presented to us, is never really what's going on. And I think that, you know, even though Son of Sam happened in 1976, I think that we can learn from this because I think the same players are still at play. And I think it's a testament to my late friend Doug's research that he was literally proven right by these military records. And I know that he is smiling down from heaven, that this is coming to light. And I'm honored to be able to carry the weight of his research to try to bring this information forward. I'm so glad that I've met Mike. I consider Mike to be a good friend now up in New York. Again, we've been working together for over a year, and it's because of Doug that we've been able to work together. And so please go and watch that video if you haven't watched it, because this is so important for the world. Even if you're not an American, of course, you guys know that we're all dealing with the same stuff, right? So, and the other thing is Tamara came back on. So we do weekly roundups, Tamara and I do, and I'm going to cut eventually this week. I'm going to cut her March forecast for the astrology and all that kind of stuff for March. I'm going to cut a shorter form of that and put it up on YT, but the full episode is already up on the RUMBLE platform. So you can go ahead and check that out. I know you guys love when Tamara's on the show. This week I've got some really fun deep dives that I really want to get into with you guys. I know that's probably where I shine the best, is deep dives, because like you guys, I'm petty and I like to research and figure out the truth behind things. My favorite books growing up were Nancy Drew and the Boxcar Kids, Boxcar Children. I love those. I still today love mysteries. And so I've got some really, really fun deep dives that I'm so excited to present to you guys. It's been hard these last few months to get our deep dives out because so much is going on in the world right now. I mean, you guys know, especially if you live in the United States, it's like every day. I actually started to keep a journal just of my own stuff, just from my own perspective of handwriting down every single thing that happens. And I wrote, actually, let me tell you guys, let me show you. I got inspired by Martha Ballard. I did an episode on Martha Ballard and the journals that she kept, which really have helped us understand her time in history. And so I'll read you guys what I wrote at the beginning. I decided to start keeping a journal because of the world we are in and because of my place in that world. I do not have children, but my sister has 4 children. I named them. I'm not going to name them here, though. It is my hope that this journal gets passed down through one of their lines. I request to the future generations of my sister's children that this journal be kept in the family. Please do not give it to the government, any schools, or any organizations. Hopefully, you reading know of what we went through during my time on the earth. The government is never to be trusted. They have lied to us, stolen from us, and have tried to commit mass unaliving because of these things. Even though we all hope that this war between good and evil will end with good winning, you never know. And please understand that what has happened can happen again. Remember, freedom isn't free. You come from a long line of freedom fighters, which I will get to in a moment. If any government requests this journal for historic purposes, give them a copy, but you hold on to the real thing. They've rewritten history before, they'll do it again. And so I kept saying to the person reading this, I love you. The same blood that runs through you runs through me. I go into the different sides of our family and who fought in the American Revolution and why it's so important to keep this journal in the family. I'm inspired by Martha Ballard because of what she did. And so I've literally every day been like writing down what's been happening from my perspective as a YouTuber, as someone who opened up a YouTube channel during this time, and what is actually what we're seeing as actual people living in this time as things start to be exposed, so that my sisters and descendants will have this and they can hold on to it so they know the truth of what we've been through. So I was very inspired by the late Martha Ballard. I spoke about her in another video. I will tag that down below for you guys and what she did as a midwife in the late 1700s and the journals that she kept about what was just going on in her day-to-day life. And so I've been doing that. So with that being said, with everything that has been going on in our world today, I keep putting off releasing these deep dives because I don't want them to be a distraction from what is actually going on in the world. I mean, so much stuff is happening. And so I'm hoping that this week I can upload some of those deep dives for you guys. Maybe they're a welcome distraction. Take an hour out of your day, you know, to learn some interesting history. But every time I go to do that, I something happens, and something pretty major in our world happens. And so I pull back just to give respect and space to what is actually happening. Because as I've said before, you know, for me, my whole intention with opening up Esoteric Atlanta was I'm not I don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? I love the Cassiopeans. I love the law of one. I believe we are going into a better tomorrow, but I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what's going to happen. And so I decided that my contribution, because I love to research and I'm petty, could be to like start researching our history and unwrapping it and seeing where maybe we've been misled. And it's been such a fun journey to do that now for 5 years with you guys. I mean, we have come across some wild stories from the past, and I have loved going through all of them and hearing your input on them. It really makes us view our own history very differently. So the whole point of that, though, to do that research is so that we can see the present clearer, so that we see where we've been manipulated before. So hopefully it doesn't happen again, right? And so at this point, because that's the purpose, is to see the present clearly and the future clearly, with everything that's been going on, I've been kind of holding back because I want us to be able to focus on Doge. And, you know, I can't say too much. I don't want to say too much on the YT because of everything, because of what's going on right in our world. And so, but I'm hoping that this week we can start to get some of those fun deep dives out, because maybe like an hour deep dive will be a welcome distraction from the stress that's going on in our world, and a reminder of where we need to keep our wits about us, because that's what manipulation is, right? Like, It's called manipulation because you don't know you're being lied to when you're being lied to. That's what makes it manipulation. It changes your thoughts on something. It changes your conscious projection of what you want because you've believed a lie, a sly lie that was put out to entrap you. You know, that's basically manipulation. And as Catherine and I say a lot, like, if you think you can't be manipulated, then you're probably the first to be manipulated. Yeah. You always have to have your wits about you and take everything with a grain of salt. I know I'm preaching to the choir right now, even when people call themselves quote unquote truthers, right? We know, yeah, that's their con art. Most of them are con artists, right? You know, everyone's given dates and nothing's happened, right? Because we don't know. And even the Cassiopeians will say we can't give you a date because time is different and it's all based upon the collective's free will, right? It's a probability. It's not a destiny. It's a probability. And when things are probabilities, they're not set in stone. And so I think that's why it's important to always look back. You know, hindsight is 2020. Yeah, so we can look back at history and say, okay, this is where our ancestors were duped before. Let's look at the signs of what happened. You know, I talked about that with the Romanov deep dive, the Bolshevik Revolution. A lot of what the Bolsheviks were promising to the Russian people are the exact same things that the truther community has been promising, which is terrifying because of what happened in Russia, the USSR. So needless to say, that, to make a long story short, that is why these deep dives are so important, is for us to enjoy ourselves and laugh at how, what is it Joe Rogan says, humans are goofy. I love when he said that humans are goofy. Humans are goofy. And some of our historical stuff is goofy, and it's kind of fun to look at it, to laugh about it, to roll our eyes at it, but also to see the patterns and understand that when certain playbooks work, they'll keep using them. And so we just have to, it's up to us as whether if they work again or not. And so hopefully, again, we'll get back to those deep dives this week. I just want to watch I say that, and then today something big and crazy will happen. So I thank you guys for understanding and for continuing to come on to the shows where it's more modern stuff. But yeah, I want to get back to Monday Mysteries too. Once things settle down, hopefully we'll get back into some Monday Mysteries. I know we're going to be doing another Son of Sam episode very soon with the same group because some other stuff has come to play that we have access to. They have access to with David Berkowitz's case. That's really important. And so I think next week we'll be filming that, uploading it, so you guys can watch that as well. And you know, with Son of Sam case, I mean, that's what the narrative is and what obviously is the truth are two totally different things. And it's so obvious. That's one of the cases where it's just so unbelievably obvious. So we're also having a lot of fun on the Esoteric Academy. As you guys know, I've talked about this. We are going to be doing a Law of One breakdown with Todd Roderick. He uploaded an interview over the Law of One and the Cassiopeians. I will play a segment of that at the end of this episode for you. And so that's over on the Esoteric Academy. And he's asking for questions about the Cassiopeians, the Law of One, so that he can directly answer your questions. Because when we're looking at this work, the Law of One and the Cassiopeians, which he's combining them together because it's coming off of the same template, there's a lot. There's volumes of stuff. And so for him, he feels like he needs your questions to help facilitate what it is you want to know about this theory and this teachings. And so that is over on that platform, which all of that is down below. You do get 7 days of a free trial with that platform. Anyway, you guys know. So that's going on. I'm also probably going to be doing an episode coming up about fair use. And if you guys saw my community tab, I am just so heartbroken over all of these spiritual foundations that are literally conning people and literally bullying people. Many of you guys know I am a huge Ram Dass fan. Now, Ram Dass did pass away in 2019, very old age, so no conspiracy there or anything. He was old. He lived a long life. And I always laugh that he left right before things got super interesting. He was like, all right, you guys, I've taught you all you need to know. Now you deal with it. I'm going to head out now. I'm just going to head on out now. And he had a foundation called Love, Serve, Remember. And after he left his foundation to people. And it is my opinion, from what I've experienced and what I've now researched of other people's experience, that the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation, unfortunately, is, well, they're acting like thugs. And it seems that it's supposed to be a nonprofit. But in my opinion, and what I've seen of other people's claims, is that the only people they're loving, serving, and remembering are themselves. So I want to explain this. I put this on my community tab, but I want to also put this in this video too, because I don't take kindly to bullies. You guys have been on this journey with me for 5 years now, and I've gone through hell and back in these last 5 years. I've personally been doxxed. I've had my money stolen. I've watched people flat out lie. People who claim to be truthers just flat out lie and manipulate people. I don't like bullies. I don't like people who manipulate. I don't like dishonesty. I just, especially when you're doing it from a place of quote unquote spirituality, you know. And so I don't take kindly to bullies, and I just can't tolerate this behavior. So I want to say this very clearly to everybody. So under the United States Constitution, under the First Amendment, there's fair use section 107. This is a very important part of our legal rights here in the United States. And I know most Western countries especially have something like this. This is very important. So what fair use section 107 says is that any person is able to use copyrighted material, whether that's a book, whether it's a movie, TV show, piece of art, music, whatever it is, you can use that for educational purposes and commentary purposes. Okay, so this is why, if you guys, one of my favorite things to watch here on YouTube is these young kids from like Gen Z who are like in their early 20s. They have a lot of YouTube channels where they take kids in their early 20s and they have them listen to like the Rolling Stones, you know, or Pink Floyd, like really great artists that they've never heard before, to get their reaction. You know, when they hear Paint It Black or something, they get their honest reaction. Well, they're able to do that publicly on a YouTube channel, use a song like that, a big song like that, because of fair use section 107. Right? Because it's an educational commentary purposes. So they're getting a reaction from someone. You hear that person like going, whoa, this is great. You know, you hear them responding to the music. So bands like Pink Floyd, the Rolling Stones can't do anything about that because it's under fair use. Because of fair use, people in schools or training programs can use particular books without getting permission from the author. So let's say, let's use a book that I had to read growing up, that the author was still alive when I was a kid. Let's talk about like, To Kill a Mockingbird. That was like Harper Lee. My mind kept going Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird. Very famous book, American book, To Kill a Mockingbird. They made a movie about it a long time ago. Gregory Peck, black and white movie. Very famous novel. It's a novel I studied both in high school and in college, and I'll tell you, my high school teacher taught it way better because my college teacher knew nothing about the South. And so there was a lot of the story that didn't even make sense when he tried to teach it because he just didn't get the South. And To Kill a Mockingbird takes place in the South. So when a school, let's say, so when I was in high school, Harper Lee, I think she was still alive. Let me double check that here for 1 second. Harper Lee. Yes, yeah, absolutely. She was still alive. Here, I will share screen with you guys. So she was born in 1926 and she died in 2016. She lived quite a long life. She was 90, almost 90 when she passed away. So she wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. And I know that the reason why I knew she was still alive is because my school would do these fundraisers, and there are a lot of, because my school was a boarding school as well, there were a lot of people from Alabama who knew her, who would get signed copies of To Kill a Mockingbird, and they would be auctioned off at these fundraisers, right? So let's say, so in my school, we would do, we would have to read To Kill a Mockingbird, and then the teacher would lecture on it or give commentary. That's what lecturing is. It's commentary. Now, the reason why the schools all across the world are able to do that is because of Section 107 fair use. So Harper Lee, especially when she's alive, could never, ever, ever, ever go and sue a school for talking about To Kill a Mockingbird because of Section 107 fair use. You go to take a training program. Let's say that you're in medical school and you have a particular biology book that's written by someone that you've bought for your classes. The school is able to use that biology book because of fair use, right? This is what gives way to freedom of speech. Now, one thing that the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation is doing is that anybody who uses any of Ram Dass's works, they're trying to strike or demand they take down the work. They can't do that. That's illegal. That is in violation of your constitutional rights. So this is the same issue I had with the Sophia Code. So if I were to sit on my channel and just read a book word by word without giving any type of commentary, or making any type of reactionary notes to the work, then that would be in violation of copyright. But because I'm giving commentary, because I'm giving my reaction to the work, good, bad, or neutral, then it's in fair use. That's why with the whole Sophia Code issue, I won that because I was within legal right to do that, because that's my constitutional right, my freedom of speech under the First Amendment, to be able to read this work on my channel and give a reaction to it, give a commentary to it. Okay. And so Love, Serve, Remember Foundation seems to be doing the same thing that the Sophia Code Foundation, where they're trying to silence people. To me, in my opinion, it seems like they are just trying to they want all the control and all the money. And that the crazy thing is, especially when it comes to spiritual teachings. Now, with books like To Kill a Mockingbird, that's the total intellectual property of Harper Lee, right? So she has even more of a say, even though she still falls under Section 107 of fair use, but that is 100% her intellectual property. She created that story. However, with the works of Ram Dass, or Desikachar, or Iyengar, or any other spiritual teacher, even the Sophia Code, that is not the intellectual property of the author. What am I saying, and why am I saying that? Because these are theories and spiritual stories that have been around for eons. So like in the Sophia Code, for example, all the stories of the women are all stories that have been around since these women were alive. You know, that was not created by Kaya Ra. That was just their story. You can't copyright. Like when the day comes that I'm no longer here, a stranger can't come up and copyright my life story. That's silly. Yeah. So when it comes to spiritual teachings, there's the reason why people like Ram Dass or Tom Kenyon, which I haven't had any issues with Tom Kenyon. That dude is like the one that really understands fair use. He gets it. What they're working with and what they're putting out, the reason why they're able to put that work out is because of fair use, if that makes sense. So because Ram Dass or Tom Kenyon or all these people, that these big writers, Desikachar, are able to write these books, they're writing books based on these teachings that they have received. They're quoting spiritual text. They're able to even write these books because they're able to do that under the freedom of speech, fair use, copyright 107, to give their opinions and their commentary on particular teachings. So what I teach, the foundation, the nucleus of what I teach as a KPJY authorized teacher, and the nucleus of what Ram Dass taught are the same. They're coming from the same spiritual scripture. What separates them is our interpretation and our experience with it, or our different lineages. But honestly, they're not that different, right? It's just slight variations here and there. So the bulk of like Ram Dass's work, or the bulk of my work, is not my intellectual property. It's spiritual texts that I am interpreting for you, or I am talking to my students about. Like when we go through the Yoga Sutras, what does this mean? Let's talk about it this way, because of the years of experience that I've had with my teachers. So again, I hope that makes sense. So the difference between like an author like Harper Lee, who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird, and someone like Ram Dass is that Harper Lee's stuff is 100% her intellectual property. She created the story, she created the characters, it's hers. Ram Dass's books are, in my own work, in Deska Char, we're teachers, we're teaching something, we're giving our opinions on something that has existed for a very long time, a text and a teaching. It's not ours. Yeah? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Yeah? What Love, Serve, Remember Foundation is doing is trying to claim it as theirs. Okay? So, on the Esoteric Academy, we have a course, and I labeled it Paths to God in honor of Ram Dass and his passing. And we go through the Path to God book, but there's a lot that I leave out of that book, and I use other teachings as well as my own commentary. We are in legal right to do that. That we are within our legal rights. That's what you do in a school when you have a book report. That's the exact same thing that you do. It's just that our school is online. So like if you go and take a course with me here in Atlanta, on the syllabus, I might tell you, go purchase Paths to God or purchase this or that book or the Yoga Sutras. You know, you can use this commentary, that commentary, because that's the stuff we're going to be talking about and lecturing on. Same as when you were in university or in high school and same thing, no different. It all falls under fair use. Hope that makes sense. Let me know if that doesn't make sense and I'll try to explain it better. Okay, now again, with the whole spiritual text thing, we don't even know. We have no idea. So like, we know Patanjali wrote the Yoga Sutras, but no one really knows who Patanjali was. Like, we don't have any other historical references. We know he also wrote a big book on Ayurveda. That's why all these legends have popped up about him, because this was like 5,000 years ago. So a lot of the details of who Patanjali was have eroded with history, as they do. Well, the Mahabharata, which is where the Bhagavad Gita comes from, a bigger book called the Mahabharata, and that is even older than the Yoga Sutras. Now, the Mahabharata is almost like the Hindu Bible, right? So like Kash Patel was sworn in on the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita translates to the Song of God, okay? And the Bhagavad Gita, I mean, honestly, like I would swear on the Bhagavad Gita, it is one of those life-changing books. It really transcends any religion. It can be used, you can use it if you're a Christian. It's literally you facing yourself and your communion with God. That's why it's called the Song of God, yeah? So to try to take ownership of a text that is that old is frankly ludicrous. It's ludicrous. This is older than the Bible. It's older than the Torah. This is some of the oldest text. The Vedic texts can speak are older than most of us in the Western world can even comprehend when it comes to spiritual text. So with that being said, it's kind of owned by the world. We don't really know. I mean, there's some legends around who wrote the Mahabharata, but we don't know 100%. It's been thousands of years. We can't know 100% who was the actual author or authors. I personally believe there were multiple writers of the Mahabharata. It's a huge text. And some people even believe that this text is based off of a real family, a real situation that happened. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. Honestly, as far as Bryce in the year 2025, it doesn't matter to me if this was a real story, if it was what. The story is what's important. What you get from the story, that's what's important. So the fact that because Ram Dass wrote a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, and remember, his Paths to God, his commentary right here, it's right here, he was only able to write that commentary because of fair use. Even though the Bhagavad Gita is open to everybody, it's not owned by anybody, he was able to still do that because of fair use, because we have freedom of speech. So this whole book was written under the protection of fair use section 107. What his foundation now is trying to do is say, we own it all. But you don't own the Bhagavad Gita. That's the Hindu Bible. Like you don't own that. That the Mahabharata, where the Bhagavad Gita comes from, is older than any of us, like by thousands of years. And it's kind of disrespectful to believe as an American nonprofit that somehow you have ownership over a Hindu scripture. Talk about arrogance. And you don't have ownership to his paths to God because of fair use section 107. So people are allowed, you can go into any train, a high school philosophy teacher could have their students get paths to God and do a whole course on paths to God using Ram Dass's commentary for the Bhagavad Gita, and you can't do anything about that because that's under fair use section 107. So I have no problem standing up to bullies because this is what's happening. This is bullying, and the Constitution is on my side and on everybody else's side. And I noticed when this happened, because we basically sent them an email back and said, actually, no, we don't owe you guys anything because of the Constitution. And also, for you to send a threatening email to all these people, these spiritual people, is breaking spiritual law. You're trying to silence people. You're trying to silence people. And people are allowed to have an opinions. I'm allowed to have an opinion about your organization. And frankly, from my experience with your organization, in my opinion, I think you guys are thugs. And I think you're tarnishing Ram Dass's name. Ram Dass writes about, and a lot of his work he writes about, he like literally gave away a lot of his work, his teachings. You know, he talks about in the I think it is in Paths to God, one of his books, he talks about how back when it was, I can't remember if it was a book or if it was an album, it was something he had done, some lecture, something he had done, and he put it together in either an album or a book, and he sold it. And he talks about how his father got mad at him because he basically, all he sold it for was the how much it cost to make, and then like $1 extra, which is basically what we're doing on the Esoteric Academy. We've got our prices so low that basically it's just covering the cost of the website and a little bit extra for an energy exchange for us, yeah, for the teachers. But we're keeping the prices that low. So we're kind of doing the same thing that he did. So Ram Dass was very free with his work. And I know for certain that if he were still alive, he would be tickled pink that schools were still using his work and keeping his work alive and introducing newer seekers to his life's mission and in all of the books that he wrote. And the fact that his foundation now is trying to silence people and trying to make themselves be the end-all be-all of Ram Dass's teaching says a lot about the people running it. In my opinion, they're only serving themselves. They're not loving other people, they're not serving other people, and they're certainly not remembering Ram Dass. And the funny thing is, the interesting thing is, and I said this in my email back to them, I was like, you know, we don't, on the Esoteric Academy, we don't sell any, we don't have a store. Like, we don't sell any merchandise, we don't sell any books. So for us to take from some of Ram Dass's work, to commentary on it, is going to encourage people to buy his work for themselves, which always comes back to you guys. That money always comes back to the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation. So I don't know why you're complaining about free advertising. So yeah. Anyway, so with that being said, if you're a spiritual teacher, if you're a yoga shala owner, and you've dealt with this from anybody, not just Love, Serve, Remember Foundation, send me an email at esotericatlanta@gmail.com. Just put like yoga shala in the subject line or fair use in the subject line, and I will be more than happy to help you with this, because these people are such bullies. They try to threaten you, but the law is on your side. The law is on your side. You are protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution, Section 107, fair use. You can use this work in your teachings. You can use it on your YouTube channel. As long as you're giving commentary and you're using it for educational purposes, you can use it. You can use it. So don't let a bunch of gaslighters and manipulators who are only out for themselves. And how sad is that? Like, I mean, think about that. Like, how sad is that? That you have to bully people so that you can make a living off of somebody else's work. Like, you're not even creative enough to create your own thing, that you have to live off the coattails of someone else. Love, Serve, Remember is supposed to be a nonprofit foundation. Now, even in nonprofits, employees can make a salary, but the main goal is to help others. Who are you helping when you're bullying people and trying to shut people up and take away other people's voices who are trying to spread the word of yoga? Who are you helping? Who are you serving? And more importantly, who are you remembering? Because you most certainly are not remembering Ram Dass, because this is not the behavior that Ram Dass practiced. And I'm not going to stand for it. You know, sometimes in yoga and spirituality, people get kind of confused with ahimsa. They think that ahimsa or nonviolence means that you basically have to be a doormat. No, no. Ahimsa actually means to stand up for yourself and stand up for what's right. And this is what's right. People have freedom of speech. I'm sorry if that offends the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation that other people have a voice. But other people do have voices. Ram Dass knew that. Ram Dass supported other people speaking out. I've told this story before and I'll tell it again. Before my first trip to India, I had read a bunch of Ram Dass's books, and I just sent him an email just to thank him. His books had really impacted me. And I sent a quick email to his little email address, and I, said I was about to head off for my first trip to India and how much I really appreciated his books and his vulnerability in his books, all that kind of stuff. Wasn't expecting to get an email back, but I did get an email back. And the email back basically asked me if that Baba Ram Dass was so touched by my email that he really wanted to Skype with me. This was back when it was Skyping. Just to Skype with me before I headed off to India, to wish me well on my journeys. And I was so nervous because I didn't know what I was going to say to him that I said, I just basically was like, I don't want to take up any of his time, blah, 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 blah. That man was willing at the old age, his health wasn't that great, his health was in decline at that time, was willing and wanted to take time out of his day to Skype with a young girl in Atlanta, Georgia, who was about to embark on the same journey that he had embarked on many decades before. He just wanted to talk with me, just to communicate with me. They weren't asking for money. He just wanted to give me some of his time, which your time is your most valuable asset. So that's the man that Ram Dass was. So the fact that his foundation is now going around and bullying people and trying to silence them is not the legacy of Ram Dass. It's not. And it's not shocking to me, though, like as studying the Law of One and the Cassiopeans and seeing how this happens, how good people with souls, which we knew that Ram Dass was a good person with a soul, how their work will get compromised by these vultures who are of the darkness, pretending to be of the light. But again, I'm not going to stand up. I'm not going to tolerate bullies. You can't do anything to anybody because anybody you try to do something to can just countersue you for constitutional violations. And in some cases, not all, but in some cases, that actually turns into a felony. There's a new sheriff in town in this country. And in this country, at least when I was a kid growing up, to violate somebody's constitutional rights was a serious crime. And now that we've got a new sheriff in town, it's turning back into a serious crime. You cannot violate somebody's constitutional freedoms, including freedom of speech. You cannot do that. And as a spiritual company, the fact that you're trying to do that, the karma that you are building doing that is almost worse than the judiciary consequences of doing that. I have a plethora of videos on my YouTube channel. Over 1,000 deep dives that I have done on this channel. A lot of deep dives. A lot. If somebody wants to pull from my videos and take clips of my videos or play my one whole video of mine and give a commentary and a reaction, whether it's good or bad, I can't do anything about that. Nor do I want to. Because I never want to live in a world where people can't express their freedom of speech. Never want to live in a world where only one narrative is allowed to be released. When you try to control the information, when you try to be the sole proprietor of spiritual information, I'm just telling you in case anybody from this foundation is listening, and maybe you've gotten tied up with some bad people, if you are trying to control the narrative, and again, let me reiterate that, be the proprietor of truth and not let other people speak, then you are automatically going into the negative polarity. On the side of light, we each have equal value and equal sharing of our thoughts. Now, again, it breaks my heart for Ram Dass. I think he would be turning over in his grave right now if he knew this was happening in his foundation. But I, for one, am not going to tolerate it. And again, if you're a yoga teacher or if you are a, anywhere you've dealt with the Love, Serve, Remember Foundation and they have bullied you and you don't, let me tell you, I've been on YouTube for 5 years now. I know the law. I know the law forwards and backwards. And that is one thing that YouTube actually does do really, really well. They don't fuck with fair use. So if someone strikes you and you strike back saying, no, this is fair use to YouTube, they will drop it and they will restore your videos. Because fair use, to not acknowledge fair use is a constitutional violation, and that renders YouTube culpable in some pretty gnarly legal issues. So with that being said, if you need support trying to get your work back from Love, Serve, Remember, or anything like that, you just send me an email, esotericatlanta@gmail.com, and I will be more than happy to help you with the law and help you get your work back, get your channel reinstated. Just because the first yama of yoga is ahimsa or nonviolence does not mean that you become a doormat. If you become a doormat to a bully, then you are not practicing ahimsa because you're being violent towards yourself. There is no room for bullies. Everyone has a right to this information. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I didn't script myself, guys. This is just a update video. So if that does not make sense, please let me know in the comment section below and I will try to clarify. I just do not like this. I believe in freedom of speech and its totality. I think every idea should be allowed to be put out there, even the bad ideas. Because I think when we have a plethora of ideas being put out there, I think most people will see a bad idea for what it's worth. We can't shut people up. We can't do that. We don't have a right to do that. Everybody has a voice for a reason. Yeah? So, yeah. All right. I feel like I'm leaving something out. If I am, I'll make another video. I am filming this on Sunday, March 2nd. This is going to be uploaded though on March 3rd, Monday, March 3rd, because I know on Sundays people, I need to edit this too. I need to add in the last part of this. So, and I have a call. So if you're on the Esoteric Academy, we have, by the time this airs, we will have already had our call, 4 o'clock Eastern time Sunday. We're going to have our call as a group. And, yeah, if you missed the call for whatever reason, we do upload the calls after we're done to the platform. It's obviously behind the wall, so only people on the platform who participated in the call or who were invited to participate in the call will have access to the call. As far as the next few calls, we're probably not going to have a specific topic to talk about because we're just still getting to know you guys, and so it's just going to be an easy breezy little chit chat. I do have, so whether you're on the Academy or not, or you're thinking about the Academy, or if you're on the Academy and you missed the call, my big questions, we're going to be talking about some upcoming courses. I have a new course that's about to, Paula, I think has just uploaded it, a whole new course up on the Esoteric Academy. I've got another course that I'm working on I'm going to run a little bit differently based on some of Jessica Char's work. And so we're going to talk about that today and about this particular course that I'm planning. Also, I need to know what I really want to hear from you guys about what your favorite exercise videos are. We've got a plethora of exercise videos because that's what Hatha Yoga is. It's just exercise. And so if you took the Alchemy of Movement course over on the Esoteric Academy, you understand the different elements of different types of exercise and what they do for you spiritually versus physically and everything. And so I want to know from you guys what is working for you, what you guys want to see more of. Do you like the fusion classes? Do you like the flesh classes? Do you like the strength and stretch classes? What do you like? We've got Cindy Ola's new class is going to be loading this week. I just talked to Cindy today about particularly doing, perhaps doing some ballet classes with you guys. I think that would be fun. I even offered to be her guinea pig, to be her little model so she could talk about like what's happening in these structures. And I am going to be doing an Ashtanga. We do have all of primary series and all of second series up on the platform now, but I think what I'm going to do too, because I've gotten a lot of questions about this week. I think I'm going to film just the standing sequence, sun salutations, and the standing sequence for the beginners. And then also do like a beginner quarter primary and go ahead and put it up there. We will, though, in the future, near future, be doing a beginner course for Ashtanga. So that is coming too. So with that being said, you guys, I'm gonna let this now play into a preview of the episode that we did with Todd Roderick for the Law of One. So in case that is something you're curious about and want to hop over on the Academy to see that episode, you can. Otherwise, please make sure you're subscribed over on the RUMBLE platform, so you can see the videos that we uploaded last week while we were dark on the YT, and be looking out for those deep dives that are coming. All right, you guys, so sorry. I just realized I don't have the footage anymore for the interview that I want you guys to watch regarding the Law of One. So what I'm going to do is I am going to actually share screen with you and show you where to go to see it. So if you go to the R platform, this one, to my page, it's this interview right here, the hijacking of the truther community and the rise of the undergrounders. It's this one right here. That's the one in between Tamara's and the Son of Sam. Okay, awesome. I'll see y'all later.